Come on, come on! Get your spicy hot commentary material here before it's irrelevant! Why, hello, good sir. Would you like some material? No. Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't you a commentator by the name of Luxter? Yeah, but here's the thing. You have a Pokemon avatar. Excuse me, but what does that have to do with anything I have to sell? Is the material you're selling Pokemon related? Maybe. There you go. I don't want to do a Pokemon commentary. And what's the problem with doing that? Are you new here or something? Do you not know how many dramas have been started over a simple Pokemon commentary? The answer is way too many. And if it's all the same with you, I'd rather not take my chances. Oh, come on now, Luxter. It's been weeks since your last commentary. You don't want to become irrelevant, do you? Well, I'm not saying yes, but I'll see what you got. Well, right now, I have a commentary on Silok's top 10 most Alolan Pokemon. Wait, that video? I mean, not that I'm interested or anything, but who's doing the commentary? Have you heard of a user by the name of Sugarp1e, one instead of I? Yeah, I've seen her around in the comment section before. Well, not only was the video done by her, but this also seems to be her very first commentary. So, now, are you interested? I'm thinking about it. Answer now, and you get a free Pokemon avatar. Alright, fine. I'll take the material. Thank you for your patronage. Yeah, whatever. Just let me change it to that commentary avatar you promised and meet me at the Sapphire Theater in about 15 seconds. See you after the intro.
But then we get to some of the new Pokemon. Oh god, did they drop the ball on this one. Whether you like the direction they took the designs or not, there's no question that objectively, these are some of the dumbest motherfuckers we've seen thus far.
Silok, you dumb idiot, moron, face! That's completely subjective.
Then how do you explain all these memes? There's so many memes! Nearly every Pokemon from Sun and Moon is its own meme.
You do know that- wait, why are you suddenly a Jolteon? I changed my avatar to something more fitting. This is a Pokemon video after all. Whatever. Anyway, you do know that memes are just jokes, right? As in something that shouldn't be taken seriously? And since when did making fun of something automatically mean do you hate it? One Punch Man makes fun of certain tropes that you see all the time in shonen anime. Does that mean the author hates shonen? No. It's called an affectionate parody, satirizing something that you personally enjoy. I mean, unless you're saying that if a Pokemon has a meme for it, it automatically means that its design is dumb without necessarily being bad. But if that were true, that would mean that if every single Pokemon in existence had a meme for it, then they'd all have an objectively dumb design. I need only one phrase to debunk that notion. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Alright, let's get a minor yet reoccurring gripe I have for this video out of the way, namely the pacing. This is a consistent problem throughout the commentary, but this segment does a good job at showing how rapidly disjointed it can be. You start off trying to make a point, only to have Pi, the Jolteon, interrupt you for a joke. Afterwards, you get back to the points you were trying to make, where you proceed to explain everything at lightning speed with very little pauses or room for thought in between. This makes the video a lot harder to keep up with in my opinion, because not only does the way you haphazardly throw in jokes distract from the overall points you were trying to make, but the breakneck pace you use to deliver these points gives the audience very little time to understand what you were trying to say. Now, for the record, I'm not saying you need to go at a snail's pace in order to be understood, nor am I trying to say that you can't have jokes in commentaries. What I am trying to say is that your jokes could have been placed better, and that you could have had a smoother transition between your points.
First off, we got Rowlet, and yeah, sorry to trigger latent Poplio fanboys, but I do like Rowlet's first form the most. Hashtag Team Rowlet. My only problem is, despite thinking the design looks solid enough, does this look like a starter too? It certainly doesn't to me. It looks like one of the field birds you find early on in the games. So yeah, like the design, doesn't really look like a starter though.
It doesn't look like a starter. What? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure there aren't any rules or guidelines to what and what not makes a starter look like a starter. But for argument's sake, let's say that there is a certain way starters look that's different from non-starters. Considering the fact that the most notable thing about Generation 7 is that it changes up the traditional Pokemon formula, one could easily assume that they decided to change up how the starters look as well. Granted, you don't have to like that, but to complain that Rowlet doesn't look like a starter when that was what Game Freak was supposedly going for makes you sound a bit, self-entitled.
Hold on, self-entitled? So because he's expressing why he personally doesn't like the direction Game Freak took with the Alolan starters, he's subtly entitled now? That's not how entitlement works. Self-entitlement would be someone thinking that they deserve something more than they actually do. In this case, if Psylocke said that Rowlet should have been designed like the other starters, and that Game Freak ruined the franchise by not doing what he wanted, then that would be entitlement, because he'd be passing off his preference as objective fact. But Silok never said anything like this. Heck, in the clip you showed, he said that he liked Rowlet's overall design, he just felt like that it could have looked more like a traditional starter in his personal opinion. Just because he's complaining about an aspect of the design that he personally doesn't like, that doesn't automatically make him entitled. And that's not even mentioning that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter whether or not the decision to make the starters look different from how they typically look was intentional or not, because no decision is above criticism. As an example of this, let's look at Sonic Mania. In order to try and recapture the glory days of the Genesis era, it ended up reusing a lot of levels from previous games, which in turn could be seen as a negative thing for some people, since it can make the game feel more stale and lacking in original content. Long story short, saying that Silok is acting entitled for merely expressing his opinion is honestly pretty silly. Now, my dear Luxter, if I could agree with Sugarp1e on one thing, I do feel like Silok could have explained what makes a starter look like a starter. Now yes, I do get this as a countdown. Obviously, I'm not expecting to call his thesis here. But it seems like this issue could easily be explained in 1 or 2 sentences. Here, let me show you. If you compare Rowlet to most other grass starters, you can see that its color palette has a lot less green in it, and it looks more like an animal rather than a plant. There, 1 sentence that could have easily explained what he meant. This might seem like a nitpick, but as Sugar said, there really isn't any official criteria as to what makes a starter look like a starter. So, it's up to Silok to explain what he means by that, otherwise the audience might not see where he's coming from.
Moving on to Litten. Edgy yokai watch cat. Yeah, okay.
Yokai Watch? They look nothing like each other! Apart from being cats. And if this was a joke, it certainly didn't sound like it.
How did this not come off as a joke? Even ignoring how his voice dropped an octave after he said this, the way the footage turns gray and falls off along with the misspelled text on the bottom right corner of the screen should have easily implied that this statement was meant to be humorous. Also, do they really look nothing alike? Because from what I'm seeing, they're both fire elementals with yellow eyes that have red in their color palette. Yeah, it's not much, but for where I'm standing, their designs have a lot more similarities to them than just being cats. Not to mention that Silok's joke was that Litten looked like an edgier version of Jibanyan since it had a black and red color scheme as opposed to the white and red one that Jibanyan had. So if you were to argue that the joke doesn't work because of how they look nothing alike, you would be wrong on that front since there are enough similarities between them to justify the joke.
Also, come on, fire hairballs. Look, you can give me crap if you want, but that's just ridiculous.
So our backflowers, tongue scars, and stick wands. What is your point?
None of this changes the fact that Silok thinks that the fire hairballs look stupid. Just because other Pokemon look ridiculous, that doesn't automatically give Litten a free pass, since he could still find the fire hairballs to be stupid in addition to the examples that you brought up. As an example of this, let's look at Stunfisk. Pretty derpy looking Pokemon, right? Now let's look at Licky Licky. Does this Pokemon existing somehow make Stunfisk look less derpy? No, because at the end of the day, they both look rather silly, and whether or not you find one to look sillier than the other is subjective. And in case you were to argue that it's inconsistent that he didn't bring up those Pokemon you mentioned, this list is about Alolan Pokemon, while the examples you brought up are either from Kanto or Kalos. So even if he did find the aspects of those Pokemon to be more ridiculous than Litten's fire hairballs, saying, oh, but these Pokemon look ridiculous too, would be irrelevant.
That fire cat should spew fire hairballs, I suppose.
So, yeah, a fire cat spewing fire hairballs makes sense. That doesn't mean that Silok can't think it looks stupid. To go back to an earlier example, Stunfisk looking ugly makes sense due to it being based off of Flounder, and as someone who's seen them up close and personal, they're not the prettiest fish in the sea. But just because it makes sense for Stunfisk to look ugly, that doesn't change how people may find the design unappealing due to the way it looks.
Popplio! Oh boy, you were just doomed from the start, weren't you? The second the starters were revealed, the majority immediately decided that Popplio was the weakest link. That upset so many people that you now see people petitioning to stop the Popplio hate. Kind of funny, actually. But yeah, I gotta agree with the majority on this one. Not a huge fan of Tom and Jerry Seal.
Tom and Jerry? Where? I don't see any resemblance.
Somebody wasn't paying attention. He was comparing Popplio to the Tom and Jerry seal, which appeared in a specific episode of Tom and Jerry called Little Runaway, which focused on Tom trying to catch a seal who escaped from the circus while Jerry was trying to keep him out of harm's way. Now, in case you want to argue that this reference was too obscure for most people to get, and therefore Silok is still at fault, I would argue that between the original YouTube video having 4 million views and the simply googling Tom and Jerry seal immediately gets you 3 different links to this episode, this misunderstanding is still on you at the end of the day.
Oh boy, here we go. I mean, look, I'm really sorry if somebody watching this actually likes Ryan, but Ballerina Seal. There is no redemption to be had here. Also, can I just point out that this thing only has a little more than a 1 out of 10 chance of being a female? Yeah, Miss Popstar over here, most likely a dude.
Can I just point out that cross-dressers exist or that'll make me an SJW? Don't worry, I got this. Silok, I don't know if you knew this, but you just reinforced gender stereotypes here. All males should be masculine, all females should be feminine. Look, if you don't like males having feminine designs, fine. Not everyone has to like be shonen, but by voicing your opinion on beauty in males as objective fact, you're insensitively shaming and demeaning males who look beautiful.
Oh joy! Gender politics, my favorite topic. Oh, yours too? No, forget it. In all seriousness, what are you talking about here? Where did Silok imply that males had to look masculine and females had to look feminine? And for that matter, where did it come off like he was voicing his opinion as objective fact? Why, in his Primarina segment, of course. Wait, what?
Lastly, we got Primarina, and you know, this one's not bad. But again, it has clear design influences from a mermaid. So why, may I ask, are 87% of them male?
Hey, stop being sexist. Mermaids can be guys too.
No, they can't! Otherwise, they're just called mermen. Mermaid is a portmanteau of the words mer and maid. Maid being a word that refers to the female sex.
Oh, okay, now I see where you're coming from, but I have to ask. Why was your point directed at his Primarina segment? The gender thing wasn't even Silok's main complaint with Brion. His main issue with the design was that he thought the idea of a ballerina seal looked stupid in general. Yes, the gender thing was still a complaint there, albeit a minor one, but even if Brion had a 100% chance of being female, he probably still wouldn't like the design anyway due to how it looks. And while the gender thing was a turnoff for him, he wasn't treating that complaint as objective fact within the Brion segment. With Primarina, not only was the gender issue his main complaint, but he went on a tirade about how the mermaid Pokemon should be female because the name Mermaid implies that they have female attributes. I'm just saying, your points would have made a lot more sense to place them after the Primarina segment.
Fun fact, did you know that female snakes are bigger and more aggressive than male snakes? It's true. What's my point, you ask? Simple. Animals aren't humans. They don't have the same biology, mannerisms, or societal norms as we do. What we may perceive to be typically feminine or masculine may not always apply to them. Take my snake example, for instance. You think the bigger, more aggressive snake of the pair must be a boy, right? Nope, it's a girl. Peafowl are similar. A peacock's train looks much more gaudy and flashy than the peaheads. There's also the morpho butterfly. The colors of the male are much more brilliant than the female. But these are real animals, you're probably saying. Well, most Pokemon are already based on real animals, so why can't they follow the real-life nature?
While there are creatures whose gender dimorphism does not match up with our societal preconceptions of what males and females look like, this doesn't apply to Brion, because if you look at the gender dimorphism in seals, the animal that Brion is based on, you would find that the differences in gender match up with our own societal preconceptions, because from what I researched, male seals generally tend to be much larger than the females due to how they developed a harem-style mating system. So not only does the real-life nature in seals actually match up with our own societal preconceptions, but Brion's biology does not match up with the biology of actual seals, since every Brion looks like a small petite ballerina dancer despite being mostly male, and this biological inaccuracy may take Silok off. Also, if we're going to apply these examples to the Primarina segment, since your skip card says that everything you said here debunks that segment as well, then your point makes even less sense because Primarina is based off mermaids, sirens, and silkies, which are fictional creatures whose anatomy was partially based off humans to begin with. Which means that their gender dimorphism is already based on how we perceive human males and females to be, therefore making your entire argument irrelevant to Primarina. Hold on there, Luxter. Doesn't that Bulbapedia screenshot you showed say that Primarina is also based off a sea lion? First off, the sexual dimorphism in sea lions is similar to that of seals, so either way, Sugarp1e's examples still don't hold water. Secondly, even if it's mainly based off a sea lion, it is still partially based on mermaids, sirens, and silkies, so the gender dimorphism in humans is still affecting its design in some way. Thus, defeating Sugarp1e's argument about how it should follow the real-life nature since Primarina's design is partially influenced by fictional humanoid creatures.
Oh jeez. Do I even need a comment? It's dumb, okay? End of story.
Maybe it's just me and my warped sense of reality, but why do I feel like that statement was just a lazy attempt to jump on Incineroar's hate bandwagon? Can't wait to read those comments.
Or, you know, he just hated Incineroar's design and put it on the list because he didn't like it. Could you not make baseless assumptions, please? At the very least, you could elaborate on how he's jumping on the bandwagon in order to give your point some actual weight to stand behind.
Also, it's not even a fighting type. If you're gonna turn a cat into a WWE wrestler, at least give it a typing that makes sense.
Actually, the typing does make sense. We consider the fact that Incineroar is based on a heel, a professional wrestler who plays as a villain in professional wrestling. Dark types are called evil types in Japan, you know. And when the starter's final evolutions were leaked, people were actually dreading the possibility of Incineroar being a fighting type. Why? Because we've had it 3 times in a row already. So one could argue that making Incineroar a dark type was actually a smart move on Game Freak's part.
Okay, the first part of that point was good, since Silok was wrong about the typing not making any sense at all. However, I do take issue with that second part. Maybe your point was just poorly worded, but it sounded like you were saying that because other people wouldn't like Incineroar being a fire-fighting type, then Silok should just be fine with it being a fire-dark type. Just because other people would hate Incineroar being fire-fighting, that doesn't mean that Silok can't take issue with it. This is his list, not theirs. You even say this yourself later in the video.
You really shouldn't let the opinions of others affect your opinion on something. This list is about your personal opinion, not the opinion of others.
Also, at the risk of sounding repetitious here, while Silok is wrong about Incineroar's fire-dark typing not making any sense, he still feels that Incineroar being a fire-fighting type would be more appropriate considering that it's a professional wrestler. Yeah, it's a heel wrestler, but it's still a wrestler, and if a Pokemon looks like a professional wrestler but it isn't a fighting type, that can cause an aesthetic dissonance that Silok clearly doesn't appreciate. I mean, imagine if Hawlucha was just a flying type, despite looking like a luchador. I'm sure there would at least be some people who would be disappointed in that due to how its design wouldn't match its typing.
I've got better things to do.
When I first saw Yungoose's design, I thought it was pretty horrible, but evaluating it further, his design is alright. It's just the mouth that throws me off. Is the mouth alone reason enough to throw him on a list? I don't know, but he's already on here, so...
Well, that's weird. Why are you putting Yungoos higher than the Papio line Incineroar and Lunala, even though you clearly have bigger issue with them than Yungoos? Maybe he feels being generic is worse than being a feminine male, or whatever his problem with Incineroar and Lunala was. But I shouldn't have to dissect and analyze someone else's opinions for them.
Here's the thing. The number 10 entry wasn't just the popular line in Incineroar, it was all of the starters, and out of the 9 starters mentioned in that segment, he only disliked 3 of them, and thought that the other 6 were merely mediocre. As for Lunala, again, the number 9 entry was Lunala and Solgaleo. He admitted that Solgaleo was alright, and while he did think that Lunala's design was a bit messy, he still didn't think it was horrible.
Straight to the point, I think Solgaleo is pretty alright, but Lunala's design is kind of a mess. Again, these aren't horrible.
Since he's grouping them together, we can easily imply that he thought that the redeeming qualities of Solgaleo and the other 6 starters were enough to set them above Yungoos. It really isn't that hard to make out.
I think all of you knew this guy would be somewhere on the list. But why so low? I can't help it. After about 200 memes of this guy, he starts to grow on you. It's got to the point where the poor thing isn't even seen as a Pokemon anymore. He's devolved into nothing more than a meme. But what a great meme to be!
Wait a minute, didn't you imply in the beginning of the video that the memes were a bad thing?
But then we get to some of the new Pokemon. Oh god, did they drop the ball on this one. Whether you like the direction they took the designs or not, there's no questioning that objectively, these are some of the dumbest motherfuckers we've seen thus far.
Silok, you dumb idiot moron face. That's completely subjective.
Then how do you explain all these memes? There's so many memes! Nearly every Pokemon from Sun and Moon is its own meme.
I love how you didn't show the part of the clip where he said that he was glad these Pokemon existed because of the memes.
But fine, I'll admit, I'm almost glad these designs exist for the memes alone. I can only wonder if that was an intentional move by Game Freak as a publicity stunt.
Now yes, he did say that the memes are proof that the Pokemon looked dumb, but simply liking the memes doesn't contradict that statement. Silok was saying that while he thinks that the memes are proof that Alolan Exeggutor looks stupid, he still enjoyed the jokes made about him, and this made Silok hate it less than he originally did. You can still like the jokes made about something while disliking the subject matter.
Also, if the design grew on you, then shouldn't it be on number 10 or at best number 9? Why is it so high on the list? Is it because of the memes? Well, that can't be it because you just said that you like the memes, so I don't know what to believe anymore! What's real? Consistency! Learn it.
Silok didn't think that the previous 3 entries were horrible. He thought that the starters in general were just a mixed bag, he felt that the legendaries were merely underwhelming, and he said that Yungoose's design was passable except for his awful jawline. Considering that he felt Alolan Exeggutor's design was laughably stupid, we can assume that he felt this was worse than the previous entries, which were just below par.
I've got better things to do.
So, this skip screen. You say that Silok fails to realize that Charge Bug was based off a battery, even though that has nothing to do with Silok disliking his design, but details! Yet in the original video, he flat out acknowledged this.
Okay, seriously though, what's the deal with Charger Bug and why? It's supposed to be a battery, which is already pretty dumb. Supposed to be a battery.
Please pay attention.
Korean Sun says, its shining gold hair provides it with protection. Yeah, those crazy mad defense skills, all in the hair, baby.
Again, what does this have to do with design? And what's the point of having a criterion if you're just gonna break it? As for the Pokédex entry, it was most likely referring to the Alolan Exeggutor steel typing rather than its defense stat. Steel is a very hard metal, you know. It's also its tackling hair ability, which slows down almost any Pokemon that uses a physical attack against it. It could be referring to that too, you're just not looking close enough.
He's not breaking his criteria, he was just making a joke. Sugarp1e, did you actually pay attention to Silok's countdown? Because this is the 3rd time I found something that you took out of the original video that debunks your argument.
I think the best part about Alola Duck Trio, well, besides the memes, are the Pokedex entries. And no, Kermit, before you say anything, these didn't factor into the votes, I just thought they were funny.
He flat out said that this had no effect on Dugtrio's placement on the list. He was just making fun of the Pokédex entries, and you still took the joke at face value. If I can butt in case you want to argue that the joke itself wasn't obvious, and therefore Silok is still at fault, I would argue that this joke still should have been pretty obvious from the clip you showed. Between the filter Silok put on the video and the seductive tone he used in his voice, these two elements alone should have proven that this statement was meant to be humorous. But again, leaving out the part where he said that these were just jokes either means that you were intentionally taking this bit out of context or that you were not paying the slightest bit of attention to what Silok was saying, neither of which look good on your end.
So that thing I said in the beginning, these entries are based on designs and designs only. Mostly because of this guy. Okay, yeah, I get it. It possesses people and it's resting on top of a pile of bones or whatever, and that's super edgy. I don't care what brooding backstory you try to give it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact it's a fucking sandcastle.
Wow, you really are petty, creating an entire criteria in an attempt to avoid being criticized for putting a specific Pokemon on the list.
Or, you know, he doesn't feel like he should give a design he hates brownie points because it has a reason for looking that way. How dare he try and justify why he dislikes a Pokemon's design? He must be avoiding criticism! Seriously, Silok justifying why Sandygast is on the list isn't avoiding criticism, it's just him saying, I don't care if it has a reason for looking the way it does, I still hate its design. How is this avoiding criticism? He's not saying that you can't disagree with his criteria or anything, he's just using Sandygast as an example of why he feels he should judge a Pokemon's design for its design alone.
Well, in any case, there actually is a pretty good reason why object Pokemon probably exist, to emulate Japanese mythology. According to Japanese myth, Sukunogami are inanimate objects that gain a living spirit after existing for about a century or more. Yeah, how dare a Japanese franchise take inspiration from Japanese mythology?
This doesn't debunk anything. Just because there's a reason for something to exist, that doesn't mean that Silok has to like it. This argument would only work if Silok said that object Pokemon had no reason to exist, but that isn't the case at all. Heck, he said the opposite. He said he didn't care what the reason was, he still thinks that Sandygast's design looks stupid. Which, at the end of the day, is just his opinion.
Seriously, what is it with Pokemons and assuming Game Freak has absolutely no reason to design their Pokemon the way they do? This is an issue I've seen a lot in the Pokemon fandom. Game Freak introducing a new Pokemon and people honestly thinking that they're either running out of ideas or just too lazy to think of anything different. No joke, I was reading through the comment section of the Starters Final Evolutions trailer and found a comment complaining about the Litten line being cached just because we have a ton of those already. It's like saying Osicats aren't original just because Abyssinians exist.
Sugarp1e, you're really starting to get off topic here. This rant on the Pokemon fandom has nothing to do with Silok's video. He never said that Game Freak was running out of ideas, he didn't say that they can't think of anything original anymore, and as I said earlier, he never said that Game Freak had no reason to make Sandygast look like a sandcastle. And before anyone says anything, yes, I get that this was just a tangent and you were using Silok's video as a way to complain about how the Pokemon fandom tends to treat object Pokemon. But when your tangent is this far removed from what Silok actually said, then at the end of the day, your rant is just irrelevant to the video you were covering.
Don't get us wrong though, we're not saying you aren't allowed to dislike object Pokemon. Are we? No, if you're not unreasonable, then neither am I. The hell does that mean? Anyway, take me for instance. I myself prefer animal Pokemon as I believe they make the Pokemon world more realistic. However, even I know that going around saying object Pokemon are bad because they're objects is a stupid argument. Pokemon are monsters. Monsters come in all different shapes and sizes. The sooner you accept that, the better.
So you're not saying that people can't dislike object Pokemon, but if they dislike them for looking like objects, then suddenly their point is stupid and they should get over it. As someone who generally likes object Pokemon like Klinklang, Palossand, and even Vanillux, disliking an object Pokemon's design for looking like its intended object is still a valid reason to dislike the way it looks. Because as you said earlier in the video, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and if someone thinks an object Pokemon looks stupid due to said person not liking the object that they're based on, then that's their opinion. Now, if someone were to say that the object Pokemon shouldn't exist, or that they're ruining the franchise, then that's a horse of a different color. But for the third time, Silok never said anything like that. All he did was express his personal distaste for the design. That's it. And that's really all I have to say in regards to the video. The rest of the commentary either has decent points, or would just be me repeating myself. I fully admit I may not be one to talk here since I'm rather new to making videos myself, but this commentary had a lot of first-time mistakes. The way the commentary was paced certainly could have been better. There are a lot of points in the video where you either didn't pay attention to Silok's points or just took his jokes way too seriously, and I feel like a lot of your statements could have used a lot more elaboration. Like when you said that Silok was acting self-entitled, or the moment where you said that he was jumping on the Incineroar hate bandwagon with no explanation as to why you thought that was the case. The best advice I can give here would be to pay close attention to the video you're covering, and to make sure that you pick up on the context clues in order to figure out whether or not the person was making a joke. At the end of the day, I do think that you have potential. There were a handful of decent points within the video, and if nothing else, it's nice to see a commentator who looks like they're legitimately having fun making commentaries. No, that wasn't so bad, now was it? I guess not. Glad you enjoyed the product. Now before I go, here's the bill. Okay, let's see. $80 for some commentary material? Come now, Luckster, you already made the video, so my payment is due. Alright, fine, here you go. It's not like I need to go to college or anything. Well, do you? Well, just get out.